6. David Sammartino. He didn't possess the same magnetism that his father had, nor were his in-ring skills up to par.
I feel like this is kind of like hard to follow, bro. Especially Bruno Sammartino, like what type of legacy he got? A legend in the business. WWE champion for like 7 years.
Oh, what's up? Oh, what's up?
It's Amaj back at another video. Today we're about to be reacting to a video by WrestleLamia. The video is going to be on 10 wrestlers who failed to carry on the famous family legacy. Damn, that hints like right there in the title too. If you think deep legacy and then go right to Ted DiBiase, yeah, that's the top one on my mind. That like really it comes to mind when I think about a failure, you know, of a person that like kind of, you know, failed to carry on that legacy. His run after legacy was just kind of overwhelming. They didn't know what to do with him. They didn't like. They brought back the $1 Million Championship. It flopped, and the whole thing with the DiBiase posse. Holy shit, man! I feel it was kind of overwhelming. It was really overwhelming. Bros hanging out in a fucking parking lot. That's the best gimmick I could come up with him for. Like that's Ted DiBiase's son. But I mean, well, as we expected in these, just because they're the wrestler's son or daughter or close relative, it really does not hit. And I know some of the Samoan family probably gonna be in here. I think one dude named Manu, something like that. It was Manu or something like that, bro. But like there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot that comes to my mind when there's like a person that failed. But I mean, just because they failed in these fields, remember, doesn't mean they like haven't gotten into anything else. It's just specifically probably WWE and, you know, wrestling. Maybe they went on the indie scene, but don't let that overshadow like the respect they're still given. They're still people at this point. We just, you know, analyzing and commenting on like how they failed in WWE though. But man, if you've been enjoying the wrestling videos, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on the reactions, and I will be getting into more. Don't forget to not be afraid to suggest some in the comments, and let's get into it.
And David Hart Smith. David Hart Smith may seem like an unjustified inclusion on a list such as this, considering he was one-time WWE Tag Champion and has since held a long list of notable championships for a long list of notable promotions. But
yeah, honestly, yeah, he's on this list. I'm surprised he really didn't like go really deep into like wrestling. But like we said at the beginning, just because they carry on you know, a name doesn't mean WWE is gonna just automatically start pushing them or see something in them. Because like, you know, some of these legacies are kind of hard to follow behind, especially when you got like a legendary wrestler of a dad, maybe a mother, or, you know, either a cousin. It's hard to follow behind that, and you know, try to stay out the shadow.
Compare his career to that of his late father, and it's night and day. Now, Smith's main problem is that he was never allowed to be his own person in WWE. He used his father's running power slam finish and later the sharpshooter that had been popularized by his broader family, and he was also a consistently featured member of various Hart Foundation spin-offs, including the Stampede Bulldogs, the Hart Dynasty, and a developmental faction in FCW that was quite literally named the Next Generation Hart Foundation. Splitting from Tyson Kidd at the end of 2010 was ultimately career-killing for Smith, at least as far as his WWE career is concerned, and he was released from his contract the following August. He's found small.
This is what I hate about WWE. They're always breaking up teams so early for some sort of dramatic effect and acting like they're just gonna break off. If you really do not build these stars up, I mean, they kind of like learn, but they still haven't learned in these recent times. If you don't build these stars up and, you know, try to at least, you know, like build them into stars while they're actually a tag team division, they're not going nowhere. I don't get why WWE does that.
Modicums of fame along the way for groups like New Japan and the NWA. Plus, he had a brief, untelevised WWE comeback in 2021, but nothing has ever been enough for him to cement his legacy as equal to that of his father's. Number 9.
Damn.
Bruce Hart. The second generation British Bulldog isn't the only member of the Hart family to have struggled to uphold its illustrious legacy, as Bruce Hart is widely recognized as being the worst of the bunch. Not that he believes it though. The second of 12 children.
I'm not gonna cap, bro. He looks like Owen Hart, bro. I mean, well, I know that's his brother, but like, I'm like, damn, bro, another blonde in the family, and like, it's not Owen. Damn, that's kind of hard to follow behind, especially in this type of family, bro.
Born to Stu and Helen Hart, Bruce Hart is perhaps best known for the exemplary matchmaking and talent development duties he undertook for his father's Stampede Wrestling business, during which time he helped produce many soon-to-be pillars of the industry, such as Jake the Snake Roberts, the Honky Tonk Man, and indeed his own younger brother Bret. Unsurprisingly, Bruce appears to detest his own flesh and blood, as during an interview with the Fight Club Chicago, he called the Hitman a mark for himself. I have the utmost respect for Bret as a worker. I actually done a lot for Bret, and I'm not taking any bows for any of his credits for whatever he's achieved. I think truth be known, Bret's a bit of a mark for himself. It's something some people become. He was more for himself than anyone else, which is fine, I guess. In the wrestling business, in a way, it's a team thing. Everyone benefits from the guys that you're working with. You can't do it all by yourself. I think sometimes Bret lost sight of that. Even with Montreal, referencing the Montreal screwjob, I felt that both Bret and Vince, neither one of them did the wrestling business justice with the way they handled it. Bret was disenchanted with my take on that. I have a lot of respect for Bret, but he's sometimes more for himself than anyone else.
I'm sorry, bro. Even for the Montreal screwjob, I know that's has been overdone like a million times. I still see that as like one of the screwiest things ever, bro. It has to be fully Vince McMahon's fault, bro. Because like, you know, like Bret Hart was about to be, you know, if he wanted to drop the he didn't want to drop the championship in his hometown, but he was gonna drop it either another night or some other night. But like, it was Vince McMahon's fault. But like, you can't really kind of fault Bret for that shit. It wasn't his fault.
That's probably his biggest fault. Now, while Bret Hart went on to become one of the very best wrestlers of all time, Bruce Hart struggled to maintain an ounce of relevancy and never made it as a full-timer in WWE. His most prominent appearances are when he teamed with Bret, Owen and Keith Hart at the 1994 Survivor Series to face Shawn Michaels and his Knights. While at WrestleMania 26, he served as a guest referee for Bret's terrible match versus Vince McMahon, trying to even steal the spotlight within it. Number 8. Jesse. Two of the 4 members of the iconic Fabulous Freebird stable have deep roots in the wrestling business, but neither comes from a particularly renowned dynasty despite their own never-ending fame. Jimmy Garvin is the stepson of Golden Era star Rugged Ronnie Garvin, while 2 of Terry Gordy's 3 children, Ray and Miranda, followed in their father's footsteps. Ray is the more famous of the 2 by technicality alone, as he spent 5 years competing in WWE under the aliases of Jesse and Slam Master Jay, though he failed to.
This time in WWE was cringy, bro. Jesus Christ. Especially when they tried to do the damn Slam Master J thing with bro. It was not working, bro. I guess they looked at John Cena, obviously, and said, oh, the white rapper gimmick will work. The white rapper gimmick can only work if you're talented. Especially, you know, vice versa with the black people and, you know, any other, you know, race taking like the, you know, like a rap gimmick or some type of hip hop gimmick. It has to flow well. You have to be talented enough to make that work. I'm not saying bro wasn't talented, but like they gave this nigga kind of like pitiful shit to work with, bro. I'm not gonna cap, bro. They didn't give him really nothing to work with. Only thing he kind of shined in was like the Jesse and Festus gimmick, and like I feel like the whole bulk of the thing was kind of like Festus. You see the type of pop Luke Gallows gets when he you know, pulls that out on the fucking indie scene.
Find the same success that had followed his father. Most notably, he partnered with Luke Gallows when he was known as Festus, acting as his handler for a lack of a better word, but gimmicks like this have only had a brief shelf life. There were only so many times the audience could watch Festus snap out of his trance. Really, he was doomed from the start, because as we're currently seeing with the Birthright stable in NXT, it's never a good sign when a second or third generation wrestler doesn't use their family name. As such, it was hardly a surprise when news broke of Jesse being handed his P45 shortly after WrestleMania 26. Number 7. Chris Von Erich. There are a few tales in wrestling more distressing than that of the Von Erichs, but their legacy nonetheless remains one of the industry's richest. Not only did the family's war with the Fabulous Freebirds define the meaning of a blood feud, but the family's patriarch, Fritz Von Erich, was one of the all-time best wrestling promoters, while Kerry Von Erich as the Texas Tornado brought the WWF Intercontinental Championship to the family's dinner table in 1990. Dishearteningly, it was the same immense success of his father and siblings that drove Chris Von Erich to pursue a career in pro wrestling, but due to him suffering from asthma and having easily breakable bones, he failed to make anything of himself.
Oh,
He shared the ring with a who's who of genuine wrestling legends, including future Stone Cold Steve Austin, and was greatly supported by the loyal audience, but it wasn't enough. On
look. Oh,
September
hold up.
12, 1991, Chris was found by his brother and mother, having taken his own life via a self-inflicted gunshot to the head.
Oh my
He was
God,
only just
rest in peace, bro. I was about to say, like, it really wasn't his fault that, like, this was kind of, like, taken, because, like, you know, when you just born and, you know, your body can't, like, take all of this, and, you know, cursed with that kind of, like, a thing where, you know, with your bones breaking easily, especially, like, having asthma, bro. Man, I really feel bad. And I really feel bad like he took his life, bro. He could have probably offered his skills in better fields. He could have been a coach. He could have been like, you know, announcer and a lot of stuff. I feel like therapy really wasn't like really big back in the day.
21 years old. Number 6, David Sammartino. Now, although he didn't follow a long line of his ancestors like those in the Anawahi family do, David Sammartino faced what was an arguably greater hurdle than any of them did. He had to follow in the footsteps of his father Bruno Sammartino, legitimately one of the biggest draws that professional wrestling had ever seen. Debuting in 1980, David simply didn't have the necessary skills to cut it as a wrestler. He didn't possess the same magnetism that his father had, nor were his in-ring skills up to par. So
I'm sorry, bro. It's even how hard you will work, even like if you tried, you know, being, you know, what your father wants, what WWE wants, I feel like this is kind of like hard to follow, bro. Especially Bruno Sammartino, like what type of legacy he got, a legend in the business, WWE champion for like 7 years, bro. That's hard to follow up. I really kind of like, damn, man, that's really hard to follow up, bro. I really kind of sympathize with this because it really sucks. You really go be in a shadow.
it was hardly a shock when his arrival in the fledgling World Wrestling Federation lasted only just 1 year. He was best remembered for competing at the inaugural WrestleMania in 1985, where he went to a double countout with Brutus Beefcake, while his last match of the company saw him reportedly forfeit a match to enhancement talent Ron Shaw by submitting to a bear hug within seconds. Sammartino has wrestled on and off ever since, including a brief spell in 1996 under the banner of WCW, but following the legacy of Bruno is something that he never managed to do. Number 5, Garrett Bischoff. Unquestionably, one of the biggest cases of nepotism crept into its way in TNA in 2011, as Garrett Bischoff, the son of Eric Bischoff, joined the locker room. Similar
Why does he look like a 50s bad guy? And why was he holding him like that? A 50s bad guy, bro. Why I oughta? I'm sorry, bro. Like, why? That's some crazy bad acting.
to how prominently Cowboy Bill Watts booked his son Eric in WCW despite a clear lack of skill, it was painfully obvious that Garrett had only gotten the gig because of his family name. He held no commanding presence in the ring or on the microphone, yet he was constantly sharing the ring with and often defeating Hall of Fame level talent like Kurt Angle. A subsequent spot within the ranks of
No way they fucking just like let bro pin. Man, I'm not gonna say no way, bro. It's TNA, bro. It's TNA back in 2013, and you know Eric Bischoff mixing it up in there, and you know how he did. You know how he did in WWC. I said WWCW, WCW at the end of those years, bro.
Aces and Eights saw Garrett elevated further up the card as he became the go-to punching bag, which again had him wrestling opposite huge names like Jeff Hardy and Sting. Mercifully, Garrett formally parted ways with TNA in 2015, after which he, his father, and Jason Harvey filed a lawsuit against the company for reportedly withholding their salaries. Speaking on an episode of his 83 Weeks podcast, Bischoff revealed exactly how much his son was allegedly owed. "They screwed my son out of 45 or 35 grand, and that really got me hot. That got me hot to screw my kid out of money because you're pissed off at me or whatever. Bad, bad, bad." Number 4, Manu. A member of the esteemed Anawahi wrestling dynasty is the son of Alpha from the Wild Samoans. Manu was briefly part of WWE's main roster between late 2008 and early 2009 as a member of...
Damn, this was really forgettable, bro. I like, it literally takes me probably like watching these type of videos to like get bro in knowledge, because I legitimately forgot about this dude being part of Legacy in the early days until they finally got their hands on Ted DiBiase. Damn, bro.
The Legacy stable alongside Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase. He joined at the 2008 Unforgiven pay-per-view, quickly becoming the enforcer of an alliance as he laid out Crime Time, but within months, he was booted from the group and indeed booted from the company. A loss to Matt Hardy, which was an on-screen test orchestrated by Randy Orton, was a storyline reason for his exit, but Orton was also the legitimate reason behind his departure. The rumor is that the Viper wasn't keen on Manu's attitude towards the business, as he believed that he didn't need to prove himself given his family's history. Discussing his ex-stablemate during an interview for WWE Magazine, Orton discussed Manu's exile from the Legacy, and though he was speaking in character, you can sense some real beef between the two. Respect, that's something that Manu, who had a chance to be a part of Legacy, didn't have. He grew up in the business, and you would have thought that he would have had that ingrained in his mind. He had been wrestling since his early teens, and he thought that he was already a veteran in his early 20s. That's what got him fired from Legacy. But I think we're looking to include another part-time man in the stable to make it all the more powerful. I'll say no more. Number 3.
Damn. I mean, shit. I mean, you can't really really complain about can't really complain about that. If you really kind of saw yourself and you barely starting off in WWE and barely getting your gigs just because like your family's famous, don't try to come off as that. If that's true, because like you just never know what's true in wrestling nowadays, because like people could just like, you know, tell everybody anything. Like he said, Orton spoke in character, but you know, well, no. I'm gonna have a second to believe this, because Orton likes to speak his mind. You know, he's not gonna pull no fucking feelings in or no sentences in that whole thing.
3. Brett DiBiase. The DiBiase name may now be more closely associated with the embezzlement of several $1 million from the state of Mississippi, but to wrestling fans, it is a legacy that stretches back decades. Starting with Iron Mike DiBiase in the 50s, the family rose to prominence during the 80s with the emergence of his son Ted, who became the $1 Million Man in WWF. His son, also named Ted, later joined the clan and found a level of success that didn't quite match his father's legacy, but certainly left more of a mark than that of his younger brother. Indeed, Brett DiBiase failed to make any lasting impact during his short stint as a pro wrestler, spending more time in WWE's developmental system than he did on the main roster. In fact, he only appeared twice on mainstream programming. He played a planted fan during Randy Orton and John Cena's clash at the 2009 SummerSlam, while on the following night's episode of Raw, he starred in a backstage segment with Legacy. Allegedly, a blown knee cost him his WWE career, as the plans had been made for him to be a continued member of Legacy, and eventually work with Triple H and Shawn Michaels ahead of the latter's retirement at WrestleMania 26. Alas,
damn, so it's an injury that's just ruined his career basically. I didn't even know bro existed. I don't be like I said, I don't be like taking a look into like extended family members or, you know, other family members like that. It's kind of crazy that like he really existed. Because I wouldn't have thought anything. I wouldn't have thought he was a part of like Legacy or something. I must have didn't see that segment. I watched WWE a lot in 2009, but it was more SmackDown. Like I said, a lot of shit happened on Raw that I didn't see.
Brett remains as nothing more than a footnote on his family name. Number 2, Tamina. Considering the hazier legacy of her father, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, it is perhaps no surprise that WWE didn't make much out of Tamina. However, the actions of her father cannot be solely blamed for Tamina failing to carry the Snuka legacy, as she had always been a terrible worker. Bland between the ropes and a charisma vacuum whenever she spoke, Tamina also...
I'm sorry, bro. Tamina is a really nice person, as you can see probably on the screen. You know, when she was getting like a gift, a gift from her family from The Rock. But like, damn, man, that shit just really that shit just really sucks, bro. That shit just really sucks. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. She was a charisma vacuum, bro. I feel like all the air goes out when she's just like, starts to talk, and then especially, when she's going to attack somebody, bro, it's just botches after botches. It really sucks that they didn't give her like a shot with the WWE champ, or not with the Divas Championship at that time, at least once.
Failed to display any ounce of character development across the 13 years of activity on WWE's main roster. She was primarily the bodyguard or a tag team partner of whoever needed an accomplice. 2021 saw Tamina seemingly get on track as a surprisingly and overwhelmingly positive crowd reaction at WrestleMania 37 saw her win the Women's Tag Team Championships with Natalya a few weeks later, marking her very first taste of gold. But even that wasn't anything really worth celebrating, however, as that year's Mania was the first time fans were permitted in the building in over a year. They probably would have gone wild for anybody, Tamina or otherwise. She hasn't wrestled since 2023. And number 1, David Flair.
I'm not gonna cap, that's kind of messed up. That is real kind of messed up, bro. Sit there and just go crazy for anybody. I mean, that's probably true, but hey.
Given that Ric Flair was one of the greatest wrestlers to ever do the job, it was all but guaranteed that at least one of his children would carve an equally as successful legacy. That was proven by Charlotte Flair. Before the Queen tried her luck in the squared circle, however, it was the turn of David Flair to step out of the Nature Boy's shadow. Having appeared on a handful of occasions alongside his father in WCW, the second-gen Flair wrestled his first match in January of 1999.
Whoa, that punch was bad. And I also seen this in the last one of the other compilations of I don't know who made the video, but they said he really didn't want to be in the wrestling business. And, you know, following Ric Flair is really kind of hard to do. I feel like he was just forced into the wrestling business by Ric Flair.
I managed to stick it out to win both the United States Heavyweight and World Tag Team Championships.
What?
The problem is that, like with Garrett and Eric Bischoff in TNA, it was glaringly obvious that David had only gotten such a prominent spot because of his surname. Analyzing the quality of his output revealed how dreadful of a wrestler he actually was. Further nepotism was displayed upon him joining the WWE. Ahead of Rick facing The Undertaker at WrestleMania 18, the American Badass annihilated David on an episode of SmackDown in early 2002, but he had no right sharing the ring with Taker, even more so considering it was on the road to WrestleMania. That mercifully was his last attempt at relevancy. But there you have it, folks.
Damn. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't like really let bro wrestle again, because he looked like he wasn't in it, bro. I feel like Ric Flair was just forcing him to wrestle with that, bro. Oh man, and then shit about Tamina, like I'll drop my phone. But that whole comment, bro, left, that is crazy. You didn't have to do Tamina like that. I mean, legit, they're probably, you know, willing to, like, you know, kind of cheer anybody at that point, but still I feel like she deserved a little bit flowers. But like, to not improve over 13 years is just crazy. Not even like once trying to like improve your like wrestling style. You knew Natty, you knew a lot of people that like I mean, at least try to like switch up the style or try a new look. But I don't know, that's just how it is. But I feel bad for that other Devon Eric family when he took his life. I don't know if it was because of wrestling or just like life in general. You just never know what people going through. Rest in peace to him. But yeah, these people on this list, half of them I never heard of. You know, I think these are just like wrestling siblings also too. Another some of them I heard of, but like, man, yeah, like I said, sometimes in WWE it really doesn't work out, or you know, in any other wrestling promotion, you cannot follow that legacy, bro. It is what it is, bro. But hey, let me know somebody that wasn't like really mentioned on this list. Let me know in the comments, and let me know your guys' opinion on this video and how you guys feel about these people. But don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. When we are on the road to 800 subscribers, we're like 10 away, bro. I get stuck at like probably like the 90s area every time because people unsubscribe or just something happens. But like, just subscribe. Thank you.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?